And I think the game plan has not been creative at all. Players have gotten open for sure. I mean, there are good things happening on offense, but they're not executing, and the scheme is bland, and teams aren't full right now.
John, how you doing this morning, my friend?
Doing good, guys. How's it going with you all?
Doing well. How'd you get over the Phillies loss, John? We'll get that out of it. Yeah. That's a difficult way to lose. That really is. Yeah, really I feel for the kid too. I mean, look, I get that you got to make the play as a professional, but man, that's a tough situation.
And I know we're going to talk football, but I'll just say, I heard somebody describe it really well. It was another pitcher who basically was saying, like, he was so focused on trying to make like the perfect pitch. Like his whole 100% focus was on like making that pitch to get the out and get out of the inning, that it didn't even cross his mind that a ball could be hit back to him. And so he just did what every 10-year-old little leaguer does when a ground ball's hit his way. He freaked out. And you just can't do that when you're in the when you're in the majors and you're pitching in the playoffs. But that's what happened. And I am heartened that I think most of Philadelphia is not trashing this guy, and rightfully so, not laying all the blame at his feet for the loss. But yeah, that's a brutal way to lose.
No doubt about it. Yeah, it was a tough one.
Yeah, it really was. And maybe even tougher was the Philadelphia Eagles losing to the New York Giants on Thursday night and getting outplayed by Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterby. I don't know anybody who saw that coming. I certainly didn't see it coming, John. That was you talk about this era of Eagles football, and people are going back. When was there a loss like that? I don't think there has been a loss like that. I mean, you've had some injuries. If you want to go back to the playoff game in Tampa, and AJ's not there, and Lane's not there, and Reed Blankenship's not there, or even back to the loss in Tampa last season before the kick started and everybody was absent, so many injuries. They just lost to a bad football team who might have been more banged up than they were.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're discounting the fact that they weren't depressed about the Phillies too. So, let's factor that in.
Well, they were depressed about the Yankees.
No, I think this is why the specter of 2023 hangs like a dark cloud. Even after a Super Bowl win and 2 Super Bowl appearances in 3 years, this 2023 cloud still hangs over everyone's heads, because that's what it reminded you of. It reminded you of that Cardinals game where Jonathan Gannon came into Philadelphia and beat a team he shouldn't have beaten, that day. And they lost a lot of games down the stretch there that they shouldn't have lost. And that's when you realize, like, oh, we're watching something else now, because Nick Sirianni has always had his team ready to play. This Eagles group, unlike any other Eagles era I've ever seen, they just don't have letdown games. They don't have games where they're looking past the current opponent. They don't have trap games like we've seen, like every other iteration of the Eagles have. And I don't know that that's what that was that we saw on Thursday, that it was a trap game, or that it was, but it was a letdown game. They should not have lost to that team, even as banged up as they are in certain spots. And I think Jordan Mailata said it really well yesterday when he was talking to the media. It's just like, we're not putting the effort out there. We're not, and you can see that. You can see defenders not playing with the same intensity that they played to last year, rallying to the ball the way that they did and playing as a unit. All the changes have kind of factored into that. So I think there's a lot of uncertainty out there on the field on the defensive side right now, as you've got a lot of new guys trying to talk to each other, and the injuries are starting to pile up on that side of the ball. And then offensively, Jalen Hurts isn't playing well. The offensive line isn't playing well. I mean, I wish it was more, and I don't think they're being put in a position to succeed. There's a lot of different reasons why it fell apart on Thursday. And you're right. They just don't do this under Nick Sirianni. That's why it was eye-opening.
John, did it look more to you like a one-off, or do you have bigger concerns about where this team is headed in 2025?
I think that's not a question I don't think anyone can answer until we see how they do against the Vikings this week, because I would say that I lean towards it being a one-off. Yes, it's their second loss in a row. Yes, they've been outgained in all 6 of their games this year, but they've also played in their first 4 games, really. And the Broncos are a playoff team as well. 5 good teams. I mean, the Cowboys, who knows? We'll see what they are. But when they played the Cowboys in week 1, the Cowboys played really well in that game. They played 5 really good teams, 5 really good games that they happened to come out on the winning side of in 4 of them. And then on Thursday night on a short week in New York against the Giants, and sometimes these young quarterbacks, you don't know what you're going to get from them. Sometimes you get a game where they flash and they pop, and that's, something that happened on Thursday with Jackson Dart. It's just, I think they deserve the benefit of the doubt in believing that it's a one-off and that they're going to come back after this mini bye and fix some things. I don't know that I'd say my confidence level is soaring, that's the case, but I think it would be wiser for us to give them the benefit of the doubt that it was just a one-off and that they will look a lot better this Sunday in Minnesota.
Where are you on the meeting talk, John? I don't know how quick you got in here and heard me. I'm all these guys do is meet. You go into the locker room, they got a big schedule up. It's meeting, practice, lunch, meeting. I don't think there's a more overblown thing in professional sports than NFL meetings, unless, and here's where I'll say, unless somebody like Tua, I don't know if you saw his comments in Miami, talks about trying to get guys together for a meeting and they don't want to get together because they're probably like, oh, this guy's out the door. Who cares? And you see that obvious disconnect. But just the idea of a meeting in the NFL, it's kind of silly to me. That's all they do.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not looking at, fourth quarter projections, and all this kind of looking at I get you do film meetings and all that kind of stuff, but I mean we've seen some of the behind the scenes of them in the big auditorium having these meetings where they're talking about togetherness and all this kind of that's great. The offense looked like garbage last Thursday, even after AJ and Jalen and Saquon had their 3-person meeting to kind of hash things out. And maybe it was a meeting, maybe it wasn't a meeting. Did they meet in the parking lot by the car? According to AJ Brown, did they meet at a TGI Fridays? We don't really know exactly what that meeting was. According to AJ, if it actually even happened, maybe, did 2 people invent it out of thin air? I agree with you. I think you got to show it on the field. Like you can have all the meetings you want and talk about how you're going to get back and regain your identity. Oh, we're feeling much better this week. We heard that down the stretch in 2023 too. Oh, we had a good meeting this week. We have good meetings this week. We're ready to establish our identity. We're ready to establish our physicality. And then they come out and they didn't do that. So we didn't need to worry about this in 24 last year. I mean, they after the bye, they fixed some things and they played really well from that point on. There was, some. They
did have a meeting. They had a bye week meeting.
Right. And that mattered. That meant something, where the offensive lineman went into Nick Sirianni's office and said, we need to run the ball more. So, I mean, I think if their meetings this week were about establishing an identity, about really focusing in on what is it we do well, who do we have, what is it we do well, and then as coaches, okay, what are teams doing to us? How do we dictate play? How do we dictate to defenses what they should be doing by accentuating what we do best? And if they can get everybody on the same page, then fine. The meetings are fine. But yeah, I am done looking at the talk about all the meetings that they're having and feeling good or feeling any different, I would say, about how they're going to play on Sunday than I would have had they had lesser meetings, because, who knows?
No, I'm with you. The eye roll, your initial eye roll was exactly how I feel when John brought up the meeting. John, where's the bigger concern for you right now, offense or defense for this team?
I think it's a great question. I think the offense is more concerning because it's more mystifying to me, and I'm not sure that the coaching on that side of the ball can fix the issues as well as Vic Fangio can fix any issues on the defensive side of the ball. Talent-wise, the defensive side, there are a lot more worries on that side of the ball. You're worried right now, especially after Zadarius Smith retired, surprisingly, and kind of leaving his team in the lurch there with the edge rushers. And I really worry about their ability to pressure the quarterback. But I think there's enough talent on that side of the ball, and Vic Fangio especially, to know how to get them through some of these games and until Howie Roseman can maybe get them some help. Offensively, there's just no reason for them to be struggling the way they are right now. And so that's the worry, is like, can the coaching staff, do they have answers? This is an offensive league. This is an offense first league. If your offense is broken, you're not going to win. this offense should not be broken. It just shouldn't be. And I know Kevin Patullo is a first-time play caller, and I've been saying this, and I just don't know if anybody else feels the same way, but he was your offensive passing game coordinator these last few years. They didn't have him in some isolation booth away from the team, unaware of what plays were being called, how the offense was being structured, how things were being put together. I would pretty much guess that he was aware of what kinds of plays they've been calling over the last few years, how the offense flowed. Like, you could, if you wanted to be an offensive coordinator someday, my guess is you're probably picking Kellen Moore's brain about these different kinds of things.
Oh my God, John. Those two were attached to the hip.
Right. So it's not like they pulled Kevin Patullo from Neptune and said, "Here, you're now an NFL coach and we want you to call plays." Like, this shouldn't be as dramatic a transition for an assistant coach who's been with the team the whole time, worked with these players the whole time, was working with Kellen Moore and Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts really closely. It should not be this much of a struggle to figure out how to beat zone. It just shouldn't. Zone's been
that's
around
the
for
interesting
a long time.
part. Now, that to me is the most interesting part, John, because the knock on the Eagles coming into this season, and really you saw it with the early game plans, was, try to get Jalen Hurts in the blitz, try to get him moving left, try to get him uncomfortable, try to get him off the spot. And he's been excellent versus the blitz. This is the best he's ever played in his career by a wide margin blitzing. Then teams have backed off and gone to simulated pressure and gone back in that zone, as you mentioned, and they can't deal with it. It's like a complete 180 of the problems coming into the season. And now all of a sudden it's like they're gashing people when they dare blitz. And when they back off and play that zone, they really, really struggle. It's so confusing to me. That's the frustrating part to me. I can't even figure out what the problem is to fix it. They fixed the one glaring problem. They fixed it. And all of a sudden, they can't do what they did effectively in the past. Running game, throwing against zone. It's crazy.
And that's what's mystifying. And that's why I'm more worried about the offensive side of the football, because the answers should be there. And I think that's part of what Mailana was talking about with effort. In order to, you've got to, if you're a receiver and you're running your route and, you're just kind of, and they're obviously not inspired, by the routes that they're running and the plays that are being called. I mean, how many times a game can you run a 10-yard curl and be excited about it? Especially especially as you're looking at what the defense is giving you and you realize, geez, my route is going to take me right into this guy's breadbasket. And then I got to stop right in front of him. It's just, you see that a lot with so many of these plays that in zone where you have two guys doing a hitch, two guys doing a curl, nothing there. And so Jalen's back there. He's holding the ball. He's got to figure out something to do back there. I think it's, and I would think that more teams are going to play zone, especially because they do want to stop Saquon Barkley, right? They want to have their eyes in the backfield to be able to kind of to stop the run if and when the Eagles ever get their run game going. So that's where this offense has to go. Is it's got to start with doing what they do best. They've got to involve Jalen in the run game more. They've got to put defenders in a moment of conflict with regards to Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley. They've got to spread defenses out a little bit to give everybody a little bit more room to operate. They got to get the second tight end and third tight end off the field when they're running the ball. And they got to make it look like so that defenses don't know what they're going to do every time they line up according to their formation. And I hope that's what these meetings were about this week on the offensive side of the ball. Like, hey, every time we run 3-by-1, we run the ball. It's pretty easy to tell what we're going to do every time we do 3-by-1,
Devil's advocacy, because I want to go back to the wide receiver point for a second. Like, I don't know, from my perspective, and I got to cover Randy Moss back in the day. So I was at ground zero of, Randy's unhappy. He's not running all routes, yada, yada, yada. So I went through that. There's something about the wide receiver position that when things get a little bit shaky and people start putting ISO cameras on different receivers and they're not running a million miles an hour after they just ran a 40-yard go route, that they're lollygagging it or whatever you want to use the term. Why doesn't nobody say, hey, Saquon Barkley's bored because he's got to run his 15th inside zone in the game. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Like one of the interesting, because Baldy put out that, and it's great, and Baldy's great, and he put out that film clip of the Eagles running what you just said, that he showed the three sort of exact same AJ, Devontae. But the ironic thing about that was they were open on every single play. The first time was Dallas Goedert. Now it was 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, and they get 5 yards. So that's not going to get you where you need to go. But the other 2 times, one of the 2 was open and the ball didn't come out on time. So at what point is it that's like, okay, it's boring. I think we can all agree. We can all say this is a boring offense. I mean, if that's just your goal, creativity, Ben Johnson, excitement, this is a pretty boring offense. I think we can all stipulate that. They go about their things in a workmanlike fashion. But if the ball's not coming out and 2nd and 10 could be 2nd and 3rd and 2, but it turns into 3rd and 10 because the ball's not coming out. At what point do we have to look at the quarterback?
100%. I think it's fair to say Jalen Hurts is not playing well at all right now. And I don't think we think of football players and quarterbacks in particular as going through slumps like baseball players do. But I think Jalen Hurts is one of those guys. I think Jalen Hurts has stretches where he gets really hot. He sees the field great. Thankfully, it's generally when the moment matters most, when they're in the playoffs, when they're in a must-win game, when they're in a must-have game. Jalen Hurts oftentimes elevates his game and plays better in those moments. He's streaky. He just is. I think they're going back to last year too. I think if you're looking at kind of some of the body language of the wide receivers, specifically Brown and Devontae Smith, I don't think that they were happy with their usage last year. But Saquon was running for 2,000 yards, and they were winning all their games and winning a Super Bowl. They didn't want to complain because obviously winning solves everything. And when you're watching history, you kind of realize, okay, I get it. AJ Brown is maybe one of the 3 best wide receivers in the NFL. His numbers don't reflect that last year and certainly this year. Devontae Smith in another offense could be one of the most productive players in football. But he's not that here. He's good. His numbers that he puts up are really good, but they're not like Pro Bowl caliber numbers. I think they both could in different offenses have numbers that get them into Pro Bowls, have them in All-Pro consideration. That's just not the way it works here in Philadelphia. They're going to win more games here though. And so I think maybe you're seeing some of that push-pull a little bit with those guys. And I think they are, like you said, Jalen's not getting the ball out to these guys on different occasions. He's not seeing it real well. I think there's frustration there with them at their quarterback that he's not getting the ball. He's not getting the ball to them as often as he can. And I don't know why that is. I just, other than the fact that Jalen Hurts goes through slumps and that he is probably in one right now, I will say that I think one of the ways you get Jalen Hurts out of a slump is get him running. Get him running, get him running, get him first downs with his legs, get the offense moving with first downs. That gets Saquon involved a little bit more. That gets defenses on their heels a little bit. And then Jalen Hurts, I think just getting him running gets him in the flow of the game a little bit more. So I think what you're going to see early in this game is you're going to see a couple of Jalen Hurts designed runs, designed to kind of get him moving the ball downfield, get him active, get his juices flowing. And then I think you're going to see a different quarterback there. And I think part of the problem has been that he's been stationary in the backfield, and he can throw from the pocket, but I think he needs to get out and moving a little bit and kind of get into the rhythm of the game a little bit better.
Are you expecting an adjustment coming? We already talked about the meetings, but everybody, if you listen to like Saquon this week, he's like, "Oh, I'm not going to say too much I don't want to help them in scouting," basically is what he said. Every year, John, you have a new circumstance. You have players have up and down years. You got new injuries. You lose guys and you add guys. Last year, the offensive line was historic. I think this team is going to have to shift a little bit the way they play. I understand we won the Super Bowl the way we did last year, but right now, that way isn't working. At what point do you get, okay, we have to change our identity again, just like they did a year ago when they became the running team? Do you expect them to kind of evolve and shift, or is it Get this running game going, boom or bust.
Yeah, I hope that I think that that's what this week was about, was trying to identify, okay, what do we need to be doing now? How have defenses adjusted to us? And now how can we dictate the style of play? And that's what concerns me when I listen to Patullo and Sirianni. It feels like their offensive schemes are completely revolve around reacting to what the defenses are doing right now. And they're very much take what the defense gives you in their philosophy. You know, it's conservative. They don't want to turn the ball over. And that's the main thing for them. But last year, the running game's not working. The offensive line isn't playing well. And that's what they really wanted to hang their hats on this year. It's what won them a Super Bowl a season ago. It hasn't been there. Now, I will say, too, I don't think the schemes have helped. I don't think asking really bad run blocking tight ends to be on the field in running situations to run the ball is a recipe for success. I don't think asking Cam Jurgens to stay anchored in the center of the line and try and take on some of the best defensive tackles in football one-on-one is using his abilities as best you can. You need to get him out and, you know, doing more of those pin pulls that have always worked so well for the Eagles. Like I think that's been part of it. So that's why I'm hoping that they have had kind of like a coming to Jesus moment here this week. Say, okay, maybe it is getting more back to what they did in 2024 and saying, here's what worked really well for us last year. We're not doing that as much right now. Let's get back to it. Let's get back to the basics. Let's get back to what we know we're good at and use these guys, use their abilities in the best way that we possibly can. And they're not, I don't know what it is they've been trying to do. It feels like they've been very reactive to A.J. Brown's unhappy. So let's force feed A.J. Brown the football here as much as we can. We're getting criticized for not passing the ball enough or having a lackluster passing game. All right, we're going to run it 8 times this week and we're going to throw it 40. Just do what you do best. Use your players. I mean, it sounds simple, but last year it was simple. That's what they did. They have the talent that if they use their players in the best possible positions, they're probably going to win because their talent is so much better than everyone else. Sometimes it is simple.
That's where I'm struggling because you say it so simply, you know, use your best players. And right now, the offensive line is not the same as it was a year ago. Well, if the running game's not working, you do have two damn good receivers in A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. You have a damn good tight end in Dallas Goedert. We don't seem to be able to use them effectively, John, week in and week out. I don't know what it is. Put it on the quarterback, put it on Kevin Patullo's routes. You know how the conversation is. Some people go here, some people go there. I don't know what it is. If I was, maybe I'd be working for an NFL team. But it does seem like we struggle to do that, man, to use those receivers. Sometimes it feels like nails on a chalkboard. I mean, should it be this hard to get A.J. Brown involved in the game? Feels crazy to me. I don't know what
you know, in that point, which I agree with to a certain degree with AJ. I mean, AJ was involved against the Giants. They still played like crap. I mean, I don't know. I think he ended up with 5 for 80 or 6. You know, it wasn't bad,
Right.
But they still played poorly. I like John's point on the tight ends from the perspective of, I think the dumbest, there's a million cliches in the NFL. I think the dumbest one of them all is next man up. And everybody uses it. Everybody says it. And I don't have a problem with people saying it because that to me, messaging is different than actual implementation. Like if you lose good players, you can say again on the podium, hey, next man up, yeah, blah, 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 it's got to step. No, but as a coaching staff, you have to persevere. You have to do things differently. You don't have good blocking tight ends outside of Dallas Goedert. And the one you do have, maybe you move the fullback, Cameron Latu. I'm not saying, but he's definitely a better blocker than the other two. How about using Fred Johnson as an extra tight end?
Exactly.
If you want to run the ball, hey, you're predictable anyway. Get the extra. A lot of teams do that. Kansas City does it all the time. Chicago's been doing it. A lot of teams do that, using extra offensive linemen. Detroit's done it for years with Skipper. A lot of teams do it. Why not? Your backup tight ends, to John's point, are let's be honest. I mean, they are ineffective at the blocking point of attack, to be kind. Why are you pounding? That's what bothers me about the coaching staff. And I think it's a little bit of hubris. I always use that term. They think they're better than everybody else. And they think, oh, Jalen Carter, next man up. Really? Quinyon Mitchell, next man up. Really? That's dumb. Isn't that dumb to everyone?
Yeah.
It's just, again, the messaging, that's fine. You got to pump up your guys. But in reality, as a coaching staff, you have to shift the way you do things to persevere when you lose good players. It bothers me. And I think the Eagles are like, literally, all right, next guy, you do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
And the philosophy too is like, we do what we do and we do it better than anyone else. So we really can just slide anyone in here to get comparable production. And, that's not how it works most of the time.
Yeah.
Well, they're the 30th offense in pro football, John. I think they're 25th in the running game, and they're like 29th in the passing game. So, no, I don't know.
No, well, but the only thing I'll say, that the passing game hasn't changed. The running game has changed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I think, and Jordan said, I'll give you the exact Jordan Mailata quote. I don't think we're predictable. I just think we're not executing. That is the major part of the game right now. We're just putting ourselves in predictable situations, which I agree with, meaning we're behind the sticks and we have to throw. There aren't too many runs we can do at 2nd and 15. There just aren't. And if you do, you probably gain 5 or 6 or 7 yards in a successful play. Not many runs you can do out of 3rd and 6 and 3rd and 7. If you do, you're going to surprise the people, and occasionally it'll work. But they're passing downs, he said. So you get a defense that'll pin its ears back and shoot upfield, and it kind of sucks. And he basically, if we get the running game going, everything's fixed. I don't think the shift is about, if there is a shift, getting the running game going. And for this offense, and to John's point, I think that was a good one. Get the quarterback involved. My biggest thing, and I've told Zander, and I tell people every day on the show, John, where are the layups when things are going bad? Mm-hmm. That's what bothers me about the coaching staff. Like, okay, you get a 3 and out, get him a layup. Throw a swing pass to Saquon or Will Shipley. Get him a layup. Make it 2nd and 5.
Yeah.
And then everything's on the table. As far as you can throw it, you can run it. And then if there is continued failure, then you start to look at the players. And I'm glad you pointed that Nick Saban thing out yesterday, Zander. I mean, is it controversial to say players over plays? Like when the best coaches in the world say the same thing? I mean, the players are the ones out there playing.
Yeah. I think so. You've got two competing things here by your two best offensive linemen, because Lane Johnson after the game talked about predictability and how predictable they were. And so I think both things are true. And that's the thing. It's like, it's not one or the other. Both things can be true. I mean, you look at the tape and you can see defenses aren't fooled on first down against this team. They know what's coming, especially on first down. It's with the exception of in the red zone. And you got to give the Eagles their flowers for their red zone efficiency. When they get inside the 20, suddenly they're way more creative. It's just, they do different things inside the red zone, which is great. I don't know why you can't take some of those concepts in between the 20s, when you're in the middle of the field and doing some of those different kinds of things. But I think Jordan Mailata is right. I think the players aren't executing. I don't know if coming off a Super Bowl has, changes their mindset, or just that there's a little bit of complacency that's kind of built in having won the Super Bowl. That would certainly be human nature if that was the case. Most of these guys have never won a Super Bowl before. A couple have here and there, but Lane Johnson doesn't talk very much. So when he comes out and says the things he says, he's also talking about the scheme. He's talking about the predictability, especially on first down. Like defenses are not fooled by what the Eagles are doing on early downs. And that puts you in 2nd and 12 or 2nd and 8. And then you're right. You're limited at what you can do at that point. Somewhat. Now, 2nd and 8, I would argue, if you're a good offense, you've got A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley. You're not talking about 2nd and 20. I mean, you got to convert more of these. You can't have as many 3 and outs as this Eagles team has had. I don't care if you get in 1st and 15. Like, you can do this. This is not
2nd and 7, because they'll push it to the first down.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So, I think both things are true here. I think the players are, and to Jordan Mailata's point, not executing and not putting forth, I think, the effort that we had seen from them last year. Maybe not as hungry, lose a little bit of that hunger. And I think the game plan has not been creative at all. Players have gotten open for sure. I mean, there are good things happening on offense, but they're not executing, and the scheme is bland, and teams aren't full right now. And so that's kind of a dangerous combination. And hopefully the 25 meetings they had this week at NovaCare Complex will address some of those different things, and we'll see a different effort in Minnesota. I'm actually kind of glad they're on the road this weekend, trying to figure this out in Minnesota rather than at home. Because if things,
I like that, I'm happy they're on the road.
Yeah,
you got predictability on one hand, and you got execution on the other. Like you can be predictable, and if you execute, it doesn't matter. If you don't execute, it doesn't matter whether you're predictable or not. And so that's where I'm like, execution is the number one thing. Last year they were predictable. Saquon said it, but we executed at such a high level, nobody could stop it. So, John, last question for me, man. Trenches. This game in football is won in the trenches, and the Eagles have dominated the trenches for so many years, especially on the offensive side. I mean, we've almost gotten so used to it. It's like if we're not a top 5 O-line, the sky is falling. But it does feel like for the first time in a bit, we're getting beat up in the trenches. What are you seeing inside the trenches, and what do you think the fix is? You can start offense, defense, whatever you think the bigger issue is.
We'll start off in the defense. Jalen Carter is not himself. He's going to play this week, but he has not had an impact this year.
No, he hasn't.
At all.
I agree.
He's been
certainly not to what we come to expect.
Right. And after the Rams game, have you heard much from Jordan Davis? I haven't heard much from Jordan Davis. He's been, I mean, we were talking a lot about him after the improvements that he'd made. He's been quiet. And obviously at edge, they're just not sacking the quarterback. This is where you're going to need
and knows Darius Smith now. We should have talked about that, but the offense is so overwhelming in this town.
Yeah.
I have more concerns on defense, Darius especially. I mean, that dude was a good player. And I hope everything's okay. But that was out of left field for the Eagles. And now all of a sudden, Alex Hunt is your top edge rusher, John. I mean, that is not a Vic's great, but I mean, that's not a recipe for success.
Yeah, and if you've watched some reps of Jahad Campbell on the edge and the few opportunities he's gotten this year, he that ain't it.
Yeah.
He's just getting pushed around back. So there's real concern there on the defensive line that they're going to even with Minnesota's quarterbacks, they're pretty stationary right now. So I think it's at least you don't have to worry about like a Baker Mayfield type guy who's going to dash around and dip and duck and dive and scramble around. I don't think you're going to see that from Minnesota. So they have an opportunity here to kind of collapse the pocket a little bit. Maybe we get a Jalen Carter game here on Sunday. And honestly, that's what they need. They need Jalen Carter to start wrecking shop in the middle of the defensive line. If that doesn't happen, the defense is going to have real problems. And then on the offensive side, I think, like we've been talking about, I think it's execution. Jordan Mailata himself has not played well this year. And I don't know what Landon Dickerson has left, but Dickerson and Mailata on that left side, that's like the best left side of an offensive line in football. If those guys aren't playing well, if they're not dominating physically, we're in trouble. So it's on them to get healthy, A, and B, to execute. And that's you're right. They're getting bullied in the trenches, and that's been the big problem.
Yeah, it's strange. At John Stolnis, make sure you follow John. The Jalen Carter stuff is interesting to me. Make sure you follow John on X, the platform. Read him at Bleeding Green Nation. Check out his Phillies work as well. When you get over it, his Phillies podcast is one of the best in the business. Baldy, again, I'm giving Baldy. Baldy's great. I'm not trying to, but I'm a little bit surprised about the narrative this week with Jalen Carter. Now, I agree 100%. We were all expecting him to take this next level and become one of the defensive player of the year candidates after being a second team All-Pro. He hasn't reached that level. That I completely agree with. But I think of all games, I think you saw what his presence means to this team against the Giants when he's not out there.
Mm-hmm.
And Baldy went on a different radio station, said he's been awful. Like, I can't go that far.
Yeah.
I think he's still I think Zach Bond's the best defensive player on this team. Quinyon Mitchell's having a great season as well. So Jalen hasn't taken that next leap, But when he's not out there, it was brutal. I think his presence alone takes him to a level of, okay, this guy's good. It's just a matter, he's got to get back to where he's a true game wrecker. So when I see something like he's been awful, I think that's going too far. You agree or disagree with that, John?
Yeah, I mean, I see that. I think we're grading on a curve when it comes to Jalen Carter. And so I think that's probably fair. I think by most defensive tackle standards, he's played pretty good. It's just not what the Eagles were expecting. And for a guy who is looking to secure a big payday, it's not what I think. It's they need more. And
yeah, well, that I agree.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I wouldn't say bad, but I would say not impactful.
Well, part of it, John, is also not just our expectations. It's also the teams, right? I mean, the team let Milton walk. The team let Sweat walk. The team did what they did partly because the talent that they have on the roster, they felt like would make up for some of those losses. If he doesn't play to that dominant level, some of those losses look, a lot worse than we thought.
Yeah, 100% agree. And it's going to be a long season for the defense if there's an injury he's dealing with. And I know there's, he has been dealing with some injury, but if it's a long-term thing that's going to affect him negatively throughout the season, I would just rather him sit out for a couple of weeks and get right. But doesn't sound like that's going to happen this week. So unless one of these veterans edge rushers kind of pop to the surface and start giving you real production on the edge, you need Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis to get in there and start pushing things in from the middle. Moro Jomo as well, to really step up. So I think it's a good opponent for them this weekend. I think it's a chance for them to get.
I think it's a great opponent. They're going to be on a third string center. Carson doesn't move. He lets you sack him. Remember when Carson was in Washington, in your neck of the woods, John, they sacked him, I think, 9 times.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the type of quarterback, and the Eagles pass rush was great at that time. So that you have to factor that in. They're not nearly as good, but this is a quarterback that will let you sack him. Eagles fans know that better than anybody. There are certain guys who are going to get the ball out, and this is a sack game. You can get sacks in this game if you're effective. So I agree. It'll be big for that defensive front to prove that they can do some things as well. I think the meeting went well, John. What do you think? We had a meeting.
I think our meeting went well.
Our meeting went great. John, you think they make a trade, a big trade?
Sorry?
You think they make a trade, a big trade?
Yeah, I do. I don't know. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if it's edge or if it's corner or if it's both. Howie's midseason trade history. The results are not awesome.
No, he hasn't been good since the Super Bowl when it comes to trades.
Yeah,
I don't think it's a plug and play league. And like in baseball, John's at baseball. I mean, you acquire a hitter, you put him in the lineup, and he either hits or he doesn't. I don't think football's a plug and play game
it's not
like baseball or even basketball.
If you're gonna go get a lineman or you're gonna go get a corner, he better know the Vic Fangio system really well. But I would do it sooner rather than later to get get as many reps as possible.
No doubt. John, good stuff, man. We appreciate you joining in today. As always, we look forward to talking to you again soon down the line. It's always good having you here, John. Thank you, brother.
Thanks for having me, guys.